Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Guten Tag, meine Damen und Herren. Willkommen bei Macroeconomy. Es tut mir leid, Sie nicht verstehen Deutsch. What'd he say? Ciao ciao ba, ciao ko, den king TV mo. Twice loy, va bava ko kung bitting viet. What in the world's he saying? Gee willikers. Well, what I said, ladies and gentlemen, was hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Macroeconomics. First, I said it in German. Then I said, oh, excuse me, you don't speak German. Then I said the same thing, the same greeting in Vietnamese, very poor Vietnamese, I might also mention. And then I said, oh, I'm sorry, you don't speak Vietnamese. Obviously, we have a problem communicating if we don't know the language. So, what we're going to study in this course is marginal opportunity cost, production possibility frontier, diminishing returns to capital, time and place utility, the consumer price index, marginal propensity to consume, gross domestic product growth, aggregate long-run supply, and a whole bunch of other things. What in the world's he talking about? Well, what's going to happen is we are going to learn the language of economics during this course. So here's a little bit about me personally. I'm Professor DJ Marino. You don't have to remember how to say that or spell it. Just call me Sam. Okay? So a little bit of personal information. You'll notice who's in charge in our family. The cats definitely rule. So with that, let me ask, how many in this class are familiar with the university color wheel? What's your favorite color? Well, that university color wheel is actually a pie chart that represents the kind of grades that people get in this class. So you'll see we have about 45, 55, 60, about 60, 61% of students get an A or a B. Another 3 or 4% get a C. It's the other part that we need to worry about, okay? Because if someone takes the course and needs to take it over again, they have to pay for it twice. So they're basically throwing their money away. And if that does happen, it normally happens because people did not devote enough time to study. Now, it does not matter what university you go to. It doesn't matter if you go to Harvard or Yale or you go to, some community college. Every university expects you to spend at least 3 hours of study time per credit hour each week for your course. So this is a 5-credit course. That tells you instantly that you should be spending somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 hours per week on this course. Now, some people may not have 15 hours a week to spend. So what we want to do is figure out how you can be the most successful you can possibly be. My suggestion is set aside some time, basically make an appointment with yourself for when you're going to study each week so that you have a set amount of time set aside for this course. Okay? I would suggest that you look at the assignment questions before you do any reading in the textbook. Then go read the textbook. Okay? Now, in addition to reading it, you want to take some notes. Now, I do not suggest that you highlight the digital book. It's not really going to help you much. If you take a piece of paper and a pen and actually make notes, the very act of writing something with your hand using a pen or pencil will do more to link that bit of information into your brain than all the highlighting you can think of doing. Right? I would also suggest that you do your very best to turn your assignments in on time. Why? Well, because let's say that you make it to week 2 and in the middle of week 2 you have a hard time getting the assignment done because of some emergency that comes up. Now you get to week 3 and you have all of week 3's work plus the week 2's work that you didn't get done. And if you don't make it by then, by the end of week 3, now in week 4, you've got week 4, week 3, and week 2's work. and so it's so easy to get snowballed behind. So easier to keep up with it on a regular basis. Okay. The other thing is participate in the discussions. Okay. The discussions are easy points, and we'll talk about those a little bit more at length. Okay. Now, you definitely want to attend the seminars. The seminars are each worth 15 points, and that again is easy points, and I'm likely to say something during that seminar that may help you with your assignment. Okay? Now, the most important thing is come to me when you need help. If you're not sure of something, if you have a question, get a hold of me. Send me an email. The emails for the university pop up on my phone immediately, so I have them right away. Okay? Furthermore, you have my cell phone number. Now, I will caution you, please text me who you are and what course you're in when you want to get a hold of me by phone. That way we can set up a time that we can talk. Either I can tell you when to call me, or you can tell me when to call you. Either way, but I get very apprehensive when I see a phone call come in and it's a phone number I don't recognize, because I think it's some kind of a scam call, and I don't answer those. So text me first so I can see that it's one of my students and I'll know what to do. Okay. So the main thing I'm trying to do here is just give you some ideas to help you and to make sure that you're not just wasting money and time. So, why do we study macroeconomics? Well, macroeconomics is what's happening throughout the entire economy. So, we see things that politicians do, we see things the government does, we see things that you'll learn about the Federal Reserve, and the question is, how do they impact all of us? And what happens when that total impact is added up? So that's what we're going to be studying in macroeconomics. Okay, so our textbook is Krugman and Wells' 5th edition of macroeconomics. And you'll notice the reference at the bottom of this slide. Okay, that is, I want to emphasize it because with every assignment, I expect you to have at least one reference at the end of your assignment, even if it doesn't ask for it. I expect it to be there. And if you don't have anything else that you've used as a reference for that assignment, use the textbook. It's that important. And you'll see something similar for the discussion threads. You either use the reference, the source that you referred to in creating your discussion post, or add the textbook if you didn't use anything else. Okay. Now, your textbook is a digital book, so it is located in the digital book link, and you shouldn't have any trouble downloading that. Another thing you want to look at is in the course resources, the course documents, the grading rubric area, because it has assignment templates, what we call rubrics, that you can download, okay, and will help you start to work on the assignment. And a lot of them you can just insert your answers in the spaces provided, okay? So you'll have a question and then you can insert your answer after the question. Now there are some written assignments that are actual writing. That's a little bit different. Okay, that said, what about our discussion board? I consider the discussion boards a learning environment, not a testing environment. So I'm not looking at what you say and trying to figure out, should I take away points because they said this wrong? No, 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 that's not my idea at all. Okay, what I'm looking for is that you post related to the discussion topic, okay? But I'm looking for you to post on 3 separate days. I need you to post an answer to the discussion question with a reference. I need your first post to be before Saturday at midnight. I need you to post on 3 different days. And I need you to answer the question and respond to at least 2 of your fellow classmates. That is the minimum to get the points. Okay? And again, remember, I need to see a reference at the bottom of your post that deals with the question. Now, your first post of the week does not have to be the answer to the question. It can be a response to somebody else. I don't really care. But bear in mind, we have all day Wednesday, all day Thursday, all day Friday, and all day Saturday to get that first post in. Don't wait till Saturday at 11 o'clock at night, and then suddenly there's an emergency. You've got to take the child to the emergency room, or something happens, or there's a car accident, or whatever, and you don't get your post in. You've got all that extra time. Get the posts in on time. Okay, now, so what kind of activities do we have? Well, I mentioned the discussions. Each discussion is worth 30 points. There are 10 discussions, so that's 300 of your 1,000 points you need to get. Okay? Now, we have the seminars. There are 10 seminars, each one worth 15 points. So if you've done your discussions and you attend the seminars, you automatically have 450 of your 1,000 points before you start to do anything. Okay? Now, we do have assignments. There are 10 weekly assignments. They vary in points, okay? But they are going to add up to a total of 550 so that we end up with our 1,000 points. Now, before I go into any more detail, understand, I teach multiple courses. I'm full-time faculty, so I'm not an adjunct. So I teach multiple courses. I may, in any given term, teach 2 or 3 sections of the same course, or I may be teaching 3 different courses. And in any given term, I may have somewhere between 70 to over 100 students. Okay? So when I go to grade papers, those papers are downloaded to my computer. Now, if I have, in the process of grading a particular paper, if I have to walk away from it and come back later, I may have a difficult time finding it for a specific person. So therefore, I want you to save your documents on your computer with a very specific name each week, so that it is easy for me to find a particular assignment. Okay? So what we're going to use for this name, when you save it on your computer and then upload it, will be the course number, the section number, your last name, your first name, and the number of the week. Okay? So for instance, this course is BU204, Macroeconomics. The X is the section number. You students may be in section 1, okay? Or you may be in section 2. Normally section 1 has their seminar on Thursday nights at 8 o'clock. Normally section 2 has its seminar on Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock, or I'm sorry, at 9 o'clock. So it just depends which section you're in. But put your section number, then your last name, then your first name, and then the unit number. The unit number is which week are we in. So this week, we're going to be doing Unit 1's assignment. The Y at the end of the name would be 1. Next week, the only thing that would change would be that the Y at the end would be 2 when you turn in Unit 2's assignment. Now, let's say that you had to miss a seminar. Okay? Let's say week 3's seminar you had to miss, and you had to do the alternate assignment to get the points, which is basically listen to the seminar recording and then write a 1-page summary of it and submit it to the Dropbox. Well, you would name it the same way. It would be BU204, your section number, your last name, your first name. But because you're missing the Unit 3 seminar, you would have Unit 3 seminar, the word seminar after the 3. Okay? That way I know for sure if I have it on my computer that it's one of the seminars. Okay? So please do that. Now, personally in my classes, if someone submits an assignment with the wrong file name, I don't grade it. I return it ungraded until the students submit it with the correct file name, and I'll grade it then. Okay, so late policy. Well, I doubt very much that very many of you are 18 years old, just graduated high school, and this is your first college course, and mom and dad are making you go to school. Okay? Probably not. So I'm assuming that most of you are adults. Most of you have family and work issues that you have to deal with every week in addition to your schooling. Okay? So I'm a little bit more flexible about a late policy. I'm not going to deduct extra points if you will let me know that you're going to be late with a particular assignment. I will grade it as though it were submitted on time, not taking away any extra points. Okay, so that way you will get the maximum points you can get. Okay, uh, and I don't go by that. You know, you only have 2 weeks to get it in. I don't go by that. You have the full term. Okay, so just easier that way since we're all adults here. So going back to the syllabus, some things you might want to look at. I would caution you that you could probably go online and you could probably find the answers to every one of the assignments for this course. And you could just copy and paste it, okay? And you might get a really good grade out of the deal if I don't happen to catch you. However, think about this. Why are you taking courses here at the university? I would assume that you want to get a really good job, much better job than you have, with much more responsibility and much more pay, right? Well, along with responsibility comes the responsibility to make executive decisions. Okay? Imagine you're sitting in that position that now you need to make decisions, okay? And you have not a clue what the economic ramifications are because you didn't study it here. You copied and pasted. So what you're going to have to do to make that executive decision is go to that website where you downloaded that answer and copy their answer. Do you think that's a way to run a business? Probably not. Okay? So the simplest matter is don't be the person that does that. Okay? Okay, one other thing you'll notice that the university does have tutoring available. Uh, my simplest solution for that is if you have a question about the course, if you're not sure what you're supposed to do with a particular assignment, you're not sure how to go about answering it, and you've done all the other things, then come to me, okay? I can help you the most, so please come to me. So, if you have any questions, be sure to contact me. We'll go through a few more things that I consider important, okay? You probably know how to access the course, the unit number. There are some learning activities, okay, that may be helpful. You'll find that in Unit 3 that starts talking about supply and demand that there's a series of videos that I created for covering the details of supply and demand. Okay. Now, what you may need to do, they may not be links you can just click on. So you may have to copy and paste the link in order to actually access the YouTube video. But that's something else there that can help you. Okay. Uh, in the particular unit that you're dealing with, to find out about the assignment, of course, click on the assignment. And up at the very top, it'll have the unit assignment. And when you click on the Unit 3 assignment or whichever assignment, it's going to give you some details, okay, of what the interactive tutorials are, if there are some available. Here is an example of one of them. When you run your cursor over the numbered circles, click on them, it'll give you some details of what that particular thing is, what it means, why it's important, that kind of thing. So there are some learning activities that will help you. Okay? At the bottom of this area, there'll be a thing that says a link that says select this link to view the details of this assignment, and it will take you to another document, and there you'll see it should be in item number 2, is a link to take you to the exact assignment template. When you click on that, you actually download a document in which you can insert the answers for everything except the writing assignment. Okay, so assignments that have questions that you have to answer, you can do that with. If it's a writing assignment, you got to do the writing. Okay, so with that said, again, if you have any questions, that takes care of the administrative details for the beginning of the course. What I want to do now is hit on a few of the key points. First off, the top 12 principles of economics. Okay, and we start off with the fact that why do we have to make choices? Okay, well, for most of us are kind of like this fella. Most of us don't have unlimited money, don't have unlimited time, or any other unlimited resources. So as we figure out how to use our money and our time and any other resources available to us, we have to make decisions because we have a lot of choices on how to make those decisions. Okay? Another concept is that everything has an opportunity cost. What is the opportunity cost? It's what you have to give up in order to get it. Now, you would think that if you go to the store to buy something, the opportunity cost of buying that thing is the money you spend on it. Well, yes, but there's also included in that the fact that you could have spent that money on something else, and there's some reason why you didn't spend it on something else. And that something else that you would have been the next likely thing you would have spent it on is part of the cost. Here's another example. Think of the young lady here on the left that is studying and doing her university work. She has some decisions to make. She could be spending that time instead of studying. She could be spending it like the young lady at the bottom right, working and making money. Okay? Or she could be spending it like the young lady in the upper right, with quality time with her children, enjoying their growing up and helping them. But instead, she chooses not to do either of those, but to spend the time studying. Okay? So every decision has some costs to it and some benefits. Obviously, she feels that the long-term benefits of improving her marketability and the kind of job she can have and the kind of responsibility and the kind of pay that she can get is worth the expense, the cost of not working now and having some money and not spending time with her children. So another principle is those how much decisions that require us to make trade-offs, and we're thinking along the margin. Oh, what is margin about? Well, the easiest way to think of marginal analysis is how much one more would be, and in other words, how much would it cost you for one more, whatever it is, and how much benefit would you get from one more? Now, I use another similar example in the microeconomics class that deals, think of the fact that if you're running a factory and you have 5 machines and 5 operators, okay, and there's one machine, one operator for each machine. And when those operators go to lunch, all 5 machines quit working, okay? Now, that means you have 1 hour of all the machines not producing anything. What would happen if you hired a sixth worker and let that worker come in and relieve one of the machine operators so they can go to lunch? And when that machine operator comes back, this sixth worker goes to the next machine and relieves that worker. And therefore, all the machines end up working through the same period. And now you have extra product for that extra hour of all the machines running, which you can then sell, and ideally you make revenue from that. Well, the marginal analysis comes out to be, will that extra revenue be equal to or more than what it cost you to hire this worker that you're going to pay for a full day, but is only going to be running machines for 5 hours? That's a marginal analysis. Okay, so the fourth principle is that people usually respond to incentives. Okay, how many people can remember back to, I guess, quite a while ago, where the government had a cash for clunkers program? Okay, they were trying to get people to trade in their gas guzzling cars and buy more fuel efficient cars, and they would give some money toward the down payment. Okay, that was an incentive to get some people to make the decision to change, right? Well, sometimes the government also has disincentives, like the policeman that pulls people over for speeding out on the main road. Okay, well, the chance of getting pulled over and having to pay a significant fine may be a sufficient disincentive to keep some people from speeding. Okay? So you see how the government can issue incentives and disincentives. Now, another principle is that there can be gains from trade, that everybody can gain from trade. Okay? And again, we'll be talking more about that. Right? Uh, in addition to that, we also have the possibility that people, uh, let's see, in addition to responding to incentives, that markets will move toward equilibrium. Okay, now what in the world is equilibrium? Well, again, it's buyers and sellers trying to figure out how much the sellers are trying to figure out how much they're willing to sell at what price, and people are trying to figure out how much they're willing to buy at what price. But if it is a perfectly competitive market where there is no outside influences affecting the price, then there will be some equilibrium price where all the sellers can sell all the product they want to sell at that price, and all the buyers who want to buy product at that price will find a willing seller to sell to them. So there'll be no shortage of product where people want to buy it and can't buy it, and there'll be no surplus of product where there'll be extra product that sellers want to sell at that price that they cannot sell. So it is the highest level of efficiency in a market. Okay? Okay. We call that that price and that quantity, the equilibrium price and the equilibrium quantity. Okay. Now, we also know that resources exist in society, whether it's the oil that we bring out of the ground, or the steel or the wood or whatever. Okay. But whatever these resources are, they have to be used as efficiently as possible. So whether it's growing food or whatever, all our resources, whether it's our water, our food, our people, and our money, need to be used as efficiently as possible. Okay? And we know that people will exploit gains from trade. And so we'll find that markets usually lead to efficiency, as I was talking about earlier, where we have an equilibrium price where nobody can be made better off. The key is that we have many, many individuals all trying to buy the same thing, and many, many sellers all trying to sell the same thing. That's a market. Now, this particular image is an image of the New York Stock Exchange where they're trading stocks, But even though it sounds like each stock is different, it really, they're all shares of particular businesses. Okay? So again, many buyers, many sellers. And then sometimes we have markets that, for whatever the reason is, they cannot achieve efficiency by themselves. And that in those cases, government intervention can step in and help improve society's welfare. What would be an example? Okay. Let me see if I don't want to skip. Okay. An example are big businesses that are the only business, the monopoly, if you will, that controls all the selling. So there's only a single seller. There may be many, many, many buyers, but only a single seller. And that seller can dictate the price that people have to pay. Okay? So sometimes the government can step in and control that. So the Sherman Antitrust Act did just that, to break up monopolies, keep monopolies from price gouging its customers. And so this was a case of the federal government stepping in back in the 1800s to do this. Okay? So another principle is that one person's spending is another person's income. Think for a minute what happens when you get paid. Okay? So you've worked doing whatever the job is, now you get paid, you take your money, you go spend it. So you go to the store and spend it. What does the store do with that money? Let's say you go to the grocery store. Well, part of that money has to buy the groceries that you're buying, right? But part of it has to pay the workers that are working there. And part of the money you spent has to go to the owners of the store as profit. Okay? So sooner or later, every penny you spend goes to somebody who in turn is going to spend it again on something else. Okay? So again, one person's spending is another person's income. Okay? So again, seeing that you buy something and the person that sold it to you turns around and they go buy stuff. Okay. Now, sometimes the spending gets out of line with the economy's ability to produce. Okay? If a situation where prices start going up, we call that inflation. Okay? And if we have a lot of unemployment, like we have during the coronavirus, then we have people not making money and not being able to go out and spend. Okay? Maybe even not even able to buy essential goods. Okay? And then principle 12 is sometimes government policies can change spending. So think for a minute about the tariffs back in 2018, 2019. Okay. Who pays those tariffs? Don't ever believe that the Chinese pay the tariffs. They didn't. What happens is a tariff is an additional tax put on the product that the buyer of the product pays to the US government. Okay? So imagine that you were going to buy a dress or a suit of clothes, and before the tariffs it was going to be $200. Now there's a 33.33% tariff put on it. Suddenly that $200 suit of clothes now would cost $300. Do you still buy it? Okay, because it's gone up a significant amount. That's what we're talking about, where the government policy can change our spending. Well, if there's a very high tariff on something and you could buy an equivalent product made in America with no tariff on it, maybe even at a lower price, what are you going to do? You're going to make the choice best for you. So, we have the 12 principles I've just talked about, and in your assignment, you're going to have 10 situations, scenarios, and you have to figure out which one of those 12 principles fits that particular scenario. Okay? and explain a little bit about why you think that's true. Okay? So, other important things we're going to look at in this course, in addition to those first principles. We're going to be talking about the money supply, how much money is actually floating in the economy. So, you see a number from 1962 would be $151 billion. Okay? Because remember, that's 151,900 million. Okay? So, but what's interesting is a basket of goods, which you'll see later is a market basket of goods that the Consumer Price Index uses. Back in 1962, that market basket of goods would cost a family of four about $30 a week for food, okay? For food and the essentials. It's more than just food, okay? Now, over time, so we're jumping ahead 45 years or so, and again, yes, understand these slides are a little old. 2008 is a little old, but I wanted you to see that 151 jumps to 1,623, so it's a significant jump. It's almost 14 times as much. So our money supply has skyrocketed during that time. Okay, of course, it is almost 50 years, but look what's happened to prices. Okay, over that same 50 or 40 some years, the price of that market basket of goods jumped from $30 to over $200 a week to feed a family of four. Now understand, the dozen eggs that she bought in 1962 is no different than the dozen of eggs she buys in 2008. The half gallon of milk she buys in 2008 is no different than the half a gallon of milk in 1962 was. It's not better. It's not more valuable. It just costs more. That's inflation. Okay? Look at unemployment. Now this goes back to 2010 to late 2017, early 2018. We were at 9.8% following the Great Recession of 2008, 2009. We'd gotten almost to 10. I think we were at 10% then. We dropped to 4.2. A scant early in 2020, January of 2020, we were down at 3.5% unemployment. Of course, today, with the coronavirus, the height of the coronavirus in May of 2020, we're thinking this is almost 20%, 22% unemployment. The worst unemployment we've had since the Great Depression of the 1930s. Imagine that. Okay, so here's how that schedule of unemployment rates going back even further, but going back to 2000, so we're only looking at about 17 years, and you see we had a high of 10% in the 2008-2009 recession, and then we were at a low of 3.8 way back when. If we stretch this back even further, going back to 1967, again we hit 3.4% back in October of 1968, a low point. So you can see we're bouncing around between 3 and 10% over that whole period of time. And then we hit the coronavirus and we jump to, way high. Okay, of course it'll come back down over time. Okay. Now, look at the numbers at the bottom. Okay, going back to 2010 to late 2017, early 2018. In 2010, if you had $100 and you were to buy $100 worth of stuff, whatever that stuff is, okay, in 2017, it would have taken $113 to buy the very same stuff. Okay, that's because we had more inflation. If we go back even further, going back to 2000, so going back 20 years, okay, What you could have bought for $100 in 2000 would cost you $145 in early 2018. If we were to go back even further to 1967, okay, again, what would have cost $100 in November of 1982, or not, I'm sorry, November, no, it would have been in 1967, 68, October 68. What would have cost you $100 would cost almost $750 today. And that's interesting because in 1967, when I graduated from college and went into the Army as a second lieutenant, I was making about $400 a month. Okay? Imagine today what it would take to buy the same thing that $400 a month made. It would take nearly $3,000 a month to do that. Interesting, isn't it? Okay, anyone, if you have questions, be sure to let me know. What do you have to do this week? This week and every week. Every time you come into the class, look and see if I have a new announcement and read it. Because if I put it there, it's important. Okay? So, you've got your introduction and your chapter 1 to read, your discussion, which remember, read my announcements and do the discussion thread. You actually have an introduction discussion this week and a discussion question. And then you have your assignment, which is going to be due midnight Tuesday night. Remember to include a reference and use the correct file name. You have these slides. These slides were attached to my welcome announcement for Unit 1. Okay, so you know what you're going to have to do. The most important thing is come to me when you have a question. Okay? Next week, we're going to be looking at economic models and trade. Again, you know how to contact me. You have my Purdue Global email, and you have my cell phone. Thank you very much for attending the seminar. We'll see you in this week's discussions, and we'll see you next week in the seminar. And hopefully, we won't need to rely on a recording. Thank you.